Okay, and I'm going to start the presentation from after the point that you've built a little rapport, asked how their day was going and things like that. And so you would kind of be transitioning into the presentation. So you would start with something like, and I don't want to take a lot of your time, but mostly I'll be talking about identity theft. Are you familiar with the topic at all? Or do you know anyone who's been a victim? Okay, and that's a question that kind of allows them to transition into talking about this subject now. And most people have either known someone has been a victim of identity theft or has been a victim themselves. And so they'll tell a little story there, and you'll let them kind of elaborate. And from there, you'll say, okay, well, yeah, well, I'm really curious then to see if someone like you would be interested in this type of coverage or not. So give me your honest feedback. And but if our coverage does make sense and you'd like to protect yourself with our plan, that's actually the best feedback I can get. But that's only if you actually see value. Okay. And this call is recorded for quality and training purposes as well. I also want to make sure you're all right with that too. Okay, so let's get started. And at that point, this is when the presentation begins. So basically, identity theft is growing like a wildfire. It's getting to the point where it's inevitable your identity will be stolen if it's not protected. It's kind of the same way it's inevitable a PC will get a virus if it doesn't have virus protection. Our identities are suffering the same fate, so to speak. In fact, there's over 40,000 identity theft victims every day in the United States. The FBI reports that identity theft is now the fastest growing crime in America. And that's because only about 5% of identity thieves are actually caught and prosecuted, as opposed to something like bank robbery, where about 95% are caught and only 5% get away. So if you're a criminal choosing between identity theft and bank robbery, identity theft is definitely a safer choice if you want to make money and stay out of prison. And there's only really one good thing about identity theft, and that's the fact that on average, it only takes about 60 seconds to find out you're a victim. There's tons of products out there that'll analyze your credit report and monitor your credit file 24/7, then alert you if you are a victim. And we'll do that too. That's not what makes us unique, but it's necessary. It's kind of like a smoke alarm for your identity. And you can get that type of feature anywhere. Unfortunately, though, a smoke alarm is not going to repair or restore the damage caused by the fire. It won't even put out the smoke. And when most people are purchasing credit monitoring, they think they're getting identity theft protection. And what they're really getting is just a smoke alarm for their identity. And when they become a victim, they have to repair their identity all by themselves, which is the main reason for all the grief suffered by identity theft victims. And that's the fact that on average, it takes about 600 hours to restore and repair your identity. And that's regardless of which type of identity theft you're a victim of. And I say that because most people believe identity theft is just a financial crime because that's what the media talks about the most. When really, financial identity theft only accounts for about 17% of all identity theft cases. So out of the 40,000 daily victims, less than 8,000 of those are victims of financial identity theft. There's actually five other major types that account for the other 83% of the cases. And instead of using a million words to explain each type and try to show you how difficult they are to repair, I'm just going to play four short videos. The first one is a single mom by the name of Stancy Nesby. She's a victim of criminal identity theft, which is when someone steals your identity and commits a crime.
It started 4 years ago when Stancy was pulled over for speeding in the Bay Area. She admitted going too fast, but couldn't understand why she was being arrested.
I ended up going to jail that day. They didn't believe anything I was saying.
It turned out Stancy had a warrant for her arrest. The police databases showed she'd been busted for cocaine possession here in San Francisco's seedy Tenderloin district back in 1999, but that she never showed up for court appearances. Stancy had to spend 3 days in jail. The problem, she was innocent.
Police later confirmed it when her fingerprints didn't match the real suspect who had used Stancy's name.
I've had nightmares about this.
She says police told her they'd fix the problem, but 2 months later, Stancy was arrested again, this time at her home in Berkeley. Once again, she says when the officers discovered the error, they told her they'd help her clear her name. But 3 months later, Stancy was arrested again in yet another jurisdiction. And it didn't end there. From 2002 to 2004, Stancy was arrested or detained 7 times by 5 police departments. In one instance, hauled off right in front of her children.
The kids were crying, and basically they ended up, throwing me on the ground and sticking their knees in my back.
And what I want you to notice there is that her credit score didn't matter. Whether her credit score was bad or good did not factor into her becoming a victim of identity theft. The next type of identity theft is employment identity theft, which presents a similar type of problem. It's not with the police, but with the Social Security Administration and the IRS, which can be even worse at times.
Schmierer faced a $1 million IRS bill. She was temporarily detained by Customs returning from a foreign business trip with her husband, and her Social Security account now shows a 0 balance, erasing 14 years of work before her marriage.
Social Security right now sends me to IRS. IRS sends me to Social Security. Every now and then they'll send me to the FTC, whom I have a case with. No one wants to do anything about it. Right now, I have nowhere to go.
Schmierer spends several hours a day trying to clear her name. The IRS has canceled her bill, but Social Security won't give her a new number. She says all 35 employers she's contacted have refused to take action against the workers using her number.
It's cheap labor, and they don't care.
Neither do most senators. John Ensign brought Schmierer's case to their attention, and they still approved Social Security benefits for illegal aliens using stolen identities.
The crime of identity theft and Social Security fraud are not victimless crimes. The victims of these crimes are American citizens and legal immigrants.
Casey Ryan, CNN, Dublin, California.
Okay, and what you should notice there is that with identity theft, you want to find out about it as soon as possible, which is why it's good to have a credit monitoring plan, even though it's not going to repair your identity. It's good to have one because the sooner you find out, the better. By the time she found out, there was more than 200 people using her identity, making it almost impossible for her to repair. The next type of identity theft is actually one of the fastest growing area among identity theft, or actually the fastest, and that's medical identity theft. And what happens to this lady is even crazier.
Her newborn baby had just tested positive for illegal drugs. Problem is, Andrew hasn't given birth in years.
As much as I denied it, they just kept insisting that, yes, I was the mother of this child. There was nothing that I could say to get out of it.
To make matters worse, authorities showed up at her door the next day, calling her an unfit mother and threatening to take away all 4 of her kids.
When you know you're innocent and you didn't do anything wrong, it just absolutely, I was in tears. I was a wreck.
Turns out, Andrew was the victim of medical ID theft. Someone had stolen her driver's license, walked into a hospital, and had a baby, leaving Andrew with a $10,000 bill and a fight to clear her name.
Do you think it's a big problem?
It's a huge problem.
Chris Dorn is a fraud expert with Ingenix, a company that tracks medical ID theft cases. He says victims have more worries than just fraudulent doctor bills. Your medical records can also be altered, with the crook's information substituted for your own.
Inadvertently, your blood type can be changed, your medications that you're on that can be changed, your underlying medical conditions can be changed.
Which can be life-threatening.
Certainly.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
Right, that is scary. And another thing to notice about identity theft is that when your identity is stolen, it's basically replaced with the criminal's identity. So you're going to suffer the consequences that the criminal should be suffering until you can prove that you're you. And at this point, no one believes anything that you're saying. Another scary situation is driver's license identity theft. And most people are familiar with that, so I won't play a video, but it's gotten a lot more sophisticated because of technology. Now criminals can create a license with your information and their picture that looks identical to a state issued one. And at that point, they can do just about anything they want while, again, you reap the repercussions. And then there's financial identity theft. I won't spend a lot of time here either because of its popularity. But this is basically when someone abuses your identity anyway financially. It doesn't have to just be credit cards. But the last type of identity theft is going to explain why we need to protect our children as well. In fact, 3.5 million minor children have already fallen victim to this type of identity theft. And this video explains why.
Egan is only 2 years old, but already owes thousands in credit card debt and has declared bankruptcy.
You think this must be a joke, and then you realize, no, this is actually incredibly serious.
9-year-old Riley is in default on utility bills. Her social was stolen 11 years before she was even born.
As a mother, I was shocked and angry and violated.
Katie was only 3 years old when crooks stole her identity. Now, as a teenager, her credit report shows over $750,000 in debt, all at the hands of ID thieves. A scary thought for a young girl.
I think that because it is illegal, like, they should be in jail.
But they're not. In fact, we found 2 men using her identity, living free.
What can parents do if they suspect their children's identities have been stolen?
Right. So if you do that credit check and it comes back that the identity is stolen, really only one thing you can do is immediately put a freeze on your child's credit. So that way it'll prevent any future theft. But it will take years for you to call the credit card companies and the credit bureaus. The burden is on you to prove that your identity has been stolen, and it is a major pain.
It is infuriating.
Yeah.
Jeff Rawson, thank you so much this morning.
And that's the major thing, is that the burden is on you to prove that you have been a victim. And you're not innocent until proven guilty in identity theft. You're actually guilty until proven innocent. And the criminals are just getting trickier and trickier. They're using children, they're using dead people's information. And the USA Today states that identity theft is expected to grow by 20 times over the next 2 years. So you would want to be protected. And those are the 6 major types of identity theft and the nightmares that follow. And it's one thing to kind of get a call about a credit card you know nothing about, but it's something entirely different to go to jail for a crime you didn't commit, or have your social security wiped out, or your children taken from you, or have your children start off their life with a negative credit history. And those types of things are actually happening every day. And most of the identity theft products on the market aren't going to help you repair your identity if you are a victim. They just monitor your credit file. And if you are a victim, you would handle all of this stuff on your own. And that's usually going to cost you about $15 per month per person. So for a family of 3, that's already about $45 per month just to monitor your credit, just for the smoke alarm for your identity. So that's not going to be protection or reparation or restoration if you are a victim. As a matter of fact, what type of protection do you currently have? And at this point, they're usually, most of the time, my experience have been, they'll say none, or they'll explain some type of protection that's like a monitoring service, because that's what's mainly out there. And regardless of what they say, you'll say, okay, well, our product is called the Identity Theft Shield, and it's exclusively provided to us by Crow Fraud Solutions Group, which is the world's leading risk consulting company. And this plan covers an entire family, which is you, a spouse or significant other, and up to 8 minor children under the age of 18. And the reason our product is so unique and superior to other products in the industry is because we're not just a monitoring plan or a smoke alarm, so to speak. We would be more like the smoke alarm, fire department, and the contractor to rebuild your home. So we're going to give you a complete credit analysis and monitor your identity. And then when you are a victim of any type of identity theft, we're going to completely restore and repair your identity back to the way it was before you were a victim. So with our plan, instead of making 1,000 different calls, you'll make one phone call, you'll speak to a licensed investigator and just literally turn the case over to them. And they'll handle all of the correspondence with the Social Security Administration, the IRS, the DMV, and so on. And that's no matter how long it takes, no matter what extent it takes. Plus, we'll even cover pre-existing situations. So if you are already a victim of identity theft, or when you do the credit analysis, if you discover you're already a victim of identity theft, the restoration is still covered 100%. So with the restoration service alone, that puts us ahead of our competition, who mainly just monitors your credit file. But still, we take it further and we provide a legal protection plan that'll help you resolve any civil or criminal legal situation during or follow your identity theft. And plus, you can use this legal plan whenever you have any type of legal situation, and everything will be covered under this plan 100%. So instead of you paying the average cost of an attorney, which is $284 per hour, your legal issues will be covered through a legal plan that's works similar to the way a medical plan or health insurance works. So that's going to make it a lot more affordable. And that's great because in America, it's almost like you're innocent until proven broke. And this legal plan rights that wrong by giving everyone the power to say, you'll speak with my attorney and really mean it. And you don't have to be a criminal or a dishonest person to need an attorney. I mean, you can just be overcharged on the utility bill or taken advantage of by a mechanic or receive telemarketing or collection calls too much. Those things aren't lawsuits necessarily, but they're situations where the advice of an attorney would help you make a better decision. And that's what a legal situation is. The only reason people don't use attorneys more often in these situations is because of cost. So with this plan, you'll be able to pick up the phone and speak with an attorney on an unlimited number of legal issues. I mean, child support, divorce, bankruptcy, tax issues. It doesn't matter what it's about. You can pick up the phone, speak to a qualified attorney who actually specializes in the area that you have a question in, and there's never a clock ticking, and you'll never get a bill for it. And you can do this 24/7. It doesn't matter what time it is, 5 a.m. or 5 p.m., and you can speak with the top attorney in the field that you have a question in. Then there's the letters and phone calls that are made on your behalf whenever you're being treated unfairly again. And that doesn't sound like much, but a letter and a phone call from an attorney is extremely powerful. That type of thing gets the job done. And more than likely, if you have to pay for something like this, most people would just deal with the unfair treatment out of fear that litigation or hiring an attorney is going to cost more than just dealing with the problem. And then, of course, the motor vehicle services is very popular. You can have an attorney come to court and defend you on a speeding ticket or any traffic violation, and they'll do whatever it takes to keep it off of your record, to keep your insurance premiums low. And they'll even cover criminal suits like negligent homicide cases, which can be thousands of dollars in legal fees, and that's covered 100% under this plan. And I just hit on some of the highlights of the plan, but this plan can help you with any type of legal situation that you would encounter. And attorney can represent you on a federal tax audit, review contracts and documents. You get lawsuit defense time if you're ever named as a defendant in a lawsuit. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There's tons of ways to use this legal plan, but is there anything particular that you'd like to know about the coverage that I didn't mention? And at this point, you're kind of giving them a chance to raise any objections. But from my experience, again, most of the time, they're going to say, no, there isn't anything. You've kind of covered everything. Or if they do have a question, you can answer that question, or have anything particular that they're going through, they want to ask if that's covered, you answer that. Or if they say there is something they don't like, you can kind of overcome that objection at this point. And then once that's done, you move right along to, so without a doubt, with the restoration and the legal plan, this is the #1 solution in the market. Is there any reason or any other reason besides affordability that would keep someone like you from purchasing a plan like this? And this goes answers the question that you just answered, because they basically, if you moved on, you've overcome any objection, or they've said they don't have any problems or any questions about the coverage. And this goes all the way back to the beginning of the presentation where you say you want their honest feedback. So right here is like, honestly, is there anything besides affordability? A reason that would keep you from purchasing a plan like this? And from my experience, they're going to say no. It would come down. This sounds good. It would come down to price. And from there, it's like, okay, well, the price is actually what makes the plan such a no-brainer, because just the legal plan alone, without the restoration, could easily be a few $1,000s per month to have an attorney on retainer like that at the average rate of $284 per hour. But you don't even pay $284 per month. The entire identity theft and Legal Shield plan combined together is only $29.90 per month. Or you can purchase the identity theft plan for $14.95 by itself, which includes everything with the restoration and all that. Or the legal plan for $19.95 by itself, which is all the legal services I mentioned. But purchasing them both together drops the price of the identity theft plan down to $9.95, so that you get the restoration and the legal services together, the entire package for only $29.90, which is the best deal. Which of those makes the most sense for you, though, honestly? Okay, and again, that goes back to the beginning of the presentation when you said you wanted their honest feedback. So here again, honestly, which of those makes the most sense for you? And you just asked if there's anything besides affordability that would keep them from purchasing a plan like this, and they've obviously said no, or you've overcome any objection because you moved forward here. So now it's only come down to affordability. So, and you're saying, which of these makes the most sense? So there's nothing else to not like but the price, and these prices are great. So most people are going to choose the identity theft and the legal plan because it makes sense, and the presentation has created value, and that's a very, very affordable price for the type of protection that they would get. If someone has car insurance and health insurance along with identity theft and a legal plan, they're basically walking around with the full armor. And most people, this is a smart decision and are going to make the decision to purchase a plan like this. And that's why the conversion rate for a presentation like this is so high. And that's a really short presentation, and you can get a commission that's $200 and more for doing that type of presentation. And from there, whatever they choose, whichever one they choose, $14.95, $29.90, or $19.95. But most people, again, would choose the $29.90. You would say, okay, and there's a $10 enrollment fee for the first month. So your first payment is $39.90. Then it'll be $29.90 every month afterwards, okay? And they'll agree to that, and then you'll move on and say, and I'm assuming you want your membership information sent to your home address, right? And they're going to say yes, or give you another address they want you to send that to, and that's basically the close. Once they give that address, you'll say, okay, so this will take about 60 more seconds, and then we're done. And then you're going to open up the chat box of this presentation, and then you're going to send them a link to the online sign-up form, and it'll be a secure page where they can put their information in private without even you being able to see it. And then at that point, they can start the coverage. And that's the presentation. So if you have an hour or two to do a few presentations per day, or even an hour or two per week to do a few presentations, email me for an interview. There are people with this company who started with just a couple of hours per week and no experience selling, and are selling 50 to 100 of these per month. This is a product that is in demand right now. So if you want to build a real sales or marketing career that could change your life, let's do it together. I'm actually in the same boat right now. We're looking for people who love to help people, love to make money, willing to learn, or even full of experience already. If that's you, email me for an interview, and let's take this journey together. Talk to you soon.